Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Age of Champions conference. I'm so excited to be here virtually with you all today. My name is Jules Good. I'm the Relay Outreach Specialist for Northeast Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services, and today we're going to talk about Relay New Hampshire services. So what's Relay New Hampshire? It's a statewide service that connects anybody who has a hearing, a vision, or a speech difficulty with other telephone users using relay operators, assistive technology, and all kinds of other goodies just to help you use the phone more easily, more independently, and without as much trouble. So phone calls through Relay can be made anywhere, anytime, nationwide, 24/7, 365 days a year. There's no, operational hours for Relay. It's always running because people need to make phone calls all the time, right? There's also no restrictions on the number of calls you can make, the length of the calls that you make, or the type of calls. So it really can be used for any type of phone service. And according to the federal law, and according to our best practices, all relay laws are all relay calls, are strictly confidential. So it's totally safe to call your doctor's office, to call anyone else with whom you might be sharing confidential information using relay. All of the content, any record of your call is erased at the end of each call. So no one's like keeping a transcript of what you're saying. It is all strictly confidential. So the first type of relay service that we have is called voice carryover, or VCO. And this is great for people who have a hearing loss, but who prefer to speak for themselves. So you speak, your caller hears what you say, your caller speaks, and then the relay agent types out what your caller is saying, and you can see what has been typed out. So you read and listen if you would like, and then you respond, and the circle keeps going around. The device this woman here is using is a TTY, which is kind of outdated technology. I'll be showing you some other options that we have for receiving the text part, the device you would use to read what's being said and what the captionist is transcribing for you. So we'll go over that a little bit later. The other option we have is hearing carryover, or I should say another option that we have is hearing carryover, or HCO. So this is for folks who are able to hear pretty well, but who might have trouble speaking. So you would type what you want to say. The relay operator will voice what you've typed to the caller. Your caller listens, and then they respond to you, and you listen to what they say. And so again, this gentleman here is using a TTY. There are other options now with the advent of digital technology that we can use to facilitate hearing carryover as well, and we'll go over those in a bit. And another option we have is speech to speech. So this is great for people who prefer to speak for themselves rather than typing, but who may have difficulty being understood over the phone. So how this works is the relay operator has really specialized listening technology so that they can really clearly hear what you're saying when you're speaking, more clearly than a person just using a standard telephone might. So how the process works is you would speak. The relay operator basically repeats what you've said, but with in a clearer voice, and then your caller listens, your caller speaks, you listen, and the circle keeps going around. So again, this is great for folks who prefer to speak rather than type, but who might have difficulty being understood over the phone. It just makes it so that your caller can understand you more clearly. So another service that we have is cap telephones. So a cap telephone is one of those options I was talking about earlier that can replace the very old TTY service. And so a cap telephone can be hooked up through a landline, just like maybe your landline phone that you have at home, or you can connect it through Wi-Fi or Ethernet. So it doesn't actually need to go through a landline service. It can just be internet-based if you'd prefer. And how this works is you call the number you want to call, and you have your conversation, you speak for yourself, and when the caller responds, the relay operator listens to what they're saying, they type it out, and then you can read on the screen what's being said. And the 880i model is really good for folks who might have difficulty seeing like smaller text. You can blow up the text to be really, really large so that it's easier to see. So there's a variety of different models available depending on your needs. Another thing to mention about CapTel phones is if you are a hearing aid user or a cochlear implant user and your assistive hearing device can connect to things through Bluetooth, you can have your CapTel phone connect to the Bluetooth in your device so that the sound just goes right through your hearing aid or cochlear implant. If you don't have that, the other nice thing that the CapTel has is with the receiver part of it, the part you put up to your ear, there's a really loud amplification system built in, so you can jack up the volume really, really high, much higher than you can on a standard telephone. So if you're just somebody who's looking for a little bit of extra volume, then the CapTel is also great for that situation. So something really cool about CapTel is that you can receive a free caption phone if you qualify. So all you have to do is go to the Relay New Hampshire website, which I'll link on our vendor page. You complete the CapTel application and the certification for eligibility. So the application just kind of has your basic information on there. And then, excuse me, the certification for eligibility has to be signed by an audiologist, physician, hearing professional, or someone else who works in an official capacity that can certify that you have a hearing loss and would benefit from a CapTel phone. You don't have to attach an audiogram. You don't have to attach any really fancy documentation, just a signature from somebody who's qualified that says, yeah, this person has a hearing loss and they could really benefit from this type of technology. And then you just submit the form, email, fax, or snail mail. There's instructions on the form for where and how you submit it. And then once you receive the phone, they'll mail it to you directly. You just go through the process to register it, which they outline for you. It's all super easy to follow to activate the free captioning piece of it. And if you have any troubles with the application process, the ordering process, getting your phone set up, you can contact me and I am absolutely happy to help. I can even come out to your house and install the phone for you if you're really having trouble. So I'm really happy to help with anything related to that technology. So another option we have is web CapTel. And so web CapTel works exactly like the CapTel phone, but instead of using a physical phone, it just goes through your computer. So you go onto the web CapTel website, and you have your call, you place your call through there, and then you listen using your smartphone, but the text will come through on your device. And so it's just a more mobile way to use CapTel. You can use it on the go, or if you don't want to have a physical CapTel phone, this is a great way to just use a tablet or a laptop that you already have and still take advantage of those CapTel services. IP Relay is really similar to CapTel, but it gives you the ability to type if you would prefer to type rather than speak. So if you're somebody who has a speech challenge or just prefer to type, you can type what you want to say. The relay operator will voice for you. Your caller will listen. Your caller will speak to respond, and then the relay operator will type what they've said and you can read it on the screen. And then there's also the IP Relay app, which works exactly the same way, but it's an app that you download on your phone or your tablet or whatever, rather than a website that you go to. So this is really nifty if you're on the go, you're away from your physical CapTel phone or a laptop, you can just use it on your phone and you can speak or type and just read what's being said using the app. So it's super nifty. So that's kind of the end of this part of the presentation. Then the other thing I'm going to show you is a really exciting new service we have called Relay Conference Captioning. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen and get my next PowerPoint pulled up here. Let's see. Okay. So Relay Conference Captioning. This will work. There we go.
So what is really conference captioning, or RCC? That's a little abbreviation for it. So it allows people who are deaf or hard of hearing or who have a speech challenge to read real-time captions for conference calls, video meetings, or webinars using a computer, laptop, or a mobile device. And it's free for people who live or work in New Hampshire. So there's two options for how to use RCC. If you prefer to communicate via typing, the captioner joins your call, which I'll explain how that works in a little bit. They listen, they transcribe, you read the captions, and then if you want the captionist to voice for you, you type in what you'd like to say in the message, the captioner box, and then they will read your comments out loud. So they essentially will just voice whatever you type to them. And then option two, if you prefer to speak for yourself, then the captionist joins the audio bridge. Again, I'll explain how that works in a minute. And then they will type out the captions for you. You can read them on your device. And then you just speak how you normally would, into your conference call or on your webinar, just however you would normally join in to voice for yourself. That's how you would do it. So RCC is available for video meetings. It takes a little bit of practice for some folks to get it set up the right way. But if you can see in our picture here, on the left side of the screen is, your video meeting platform. So Zoom, Google Meet, WebEx, whatever you use. And then on the right side, you would put the window that has the captioning in it. Some people prefer to pull up the captioning on a separate device. So they have their computer in front of them and then their phone leaned up against it or a tablet next to it. So you're looking at two devices rather than two screens. It's a matter of preference, and however you decide to do it, if you're having any trouble, I'm available to help you set that up. So for webinars, this is pretty much the same thing, except that for webinars, there are some platforms that allow the captions to be embedded. So rather than viewing them in a separate window, they will come up like within the same window as your webinar platform. Unfortunately, not all platforms allow embedding at this time. So for us Zoom users, we usually just still put it in a separate window or on a separate device. So something that I like to share about RCC that I think is super cool is the people who are doing the captioning for it are the same people that do our live captions for TV shows, for the news, sports, weather. So if you turn on captions for live events on your TV, it's the same people, the same really high quality captions, and they're delivered pretty quickly. So there's not too much of a delay between when somebody is speaking and when you're reading what they're saying after the captionist has typed it. It's really amazing technology. So in order to reserve RCC service, we're going to walk through that process real quick. So the things you'll want to have ready, if you are joining a conference call, you'll want to have the conference call number, and if there's an access code, you'll want to have that ready. If you are using it for a Zoom meeting or a webinar, you'll want to have the URL, so like the web address for that meeting or webinar, and any information that you would need to sign into the webinar. So on Zoom, a lot of times there's the meeting ID and sometimes a password. So you just want to have that stuff handy. You want to make sure that you're reserving it 2 business days before you need to use it. And so that is just so that they can guarantee that they can find a captionist for you. Sometimes if you're really in a bind and you need to request it, you have something that came up like later in the afternoon and it's the morning, sometimes they're able to match you with a captionist, but it's really best practice to just do it at least 2 business days in advance. And we'll go over the transcript piece here in a second. So if you go to relaynewhampshire.com/RCC, and again, I'll put all of these links on our vendor page so you don't have to write them down, don't worry. But you just go to that address and this page will come up. And then you're just going to start filling in the information. So the first chunk is really just your basic contact information, first name, last name, email address, understanding that RCC is intended for conference calls, webinars, or multi-party calls. So, this is really not intended for one-on-one discussions
for like a personal capacity. It's really supposed to be used for work or for, maybe social events, like if you have a meeting with a volunteer group or, things of that nature. And if you have a question as to like what you can use RCC for a specific thing, feel free to email me. I'm happy to let you know if it would qualify or not. The other thing that's important is if you're requesting it, you have to make sure that either yourself or someone else on the call is a deaf or hard of hearing person or somebody who has a speech challenge. So this isn't to be used for people on the call who don't necessarily need it. It's really just supposed to be provided for folks who could really benefit from it. Phone number, so something to note here, the phone number that you put in has to be a 603 area code. So for me personally, like my personal phone number isn't a 603 area code because I'm not from here. But when I need to reserve RCC, I use my office phone number, which is a 603 number, because most of the time I'm reserving it for work anyway. And so, yeah, just make sure the phone number you put in is a 603 number or else it won't let you reserve it. The event information. So the teleconference phone number, if it is a conference call, you can put that in there. If it's not a conference call, you'll see the little red asterisk next to teleconference phone number means that question is required. So it won't let you move on with the form if you don't fill it in. So if it's not a conference call, just put in 000-000-0000, my favorite phone number. And that will just fill it in, but it will signal to the captionist that they're going to be joining a web conference instead. And so that's where you would put the web conference URL. So if it's a Zoom meeting, you just put the Zoom link in there. Google Meet, same thing. So just the link to the meeting you put in there. And then event title. So just, meeting for work or knitting club meeting or whatever it is. And then under event notes, you can just put kind of anything that would be relevant for the captionist to know. If you know you're going to have somebody on the call who is going to be utilizing the typing to the captionist function where they have the captionist voice for them, put that in event notes just so that they can be totally prepared to do that. If you don't, it's not a big deal. They'll still do it for you, but it's just nice to let them know ahead of time so they have everything set up correctly. And then date and time of the event, the date, when it's going to start, when you think it's going to end, just an estimate. If it's not spot on, that's totally fine. They won't hang up on you, but just so they have an idea of how long the commitment is. This I have told you already. Yes, 00000 if you are using a Zoom link. So you can put the Zoom link either in the web conference URL spot, or you can put it under event notes. If there's a meeting ID and a password, you'll want to put that under the event notes as well so that the captionist is able to actually get into the meeting. And same thing for webinars. So the transcript option. So when you use RCC, you have the option to keep a copy of the transcript. So if you want to be able to keep the transcript, you'll click retain copy of the transcript on server, and then you'll be able to save it. If you don't care about keeping the transcript, you can just click destroy, they'll get rid of it. And that just protects confidentiality, because then the transcript isn't out there anymore for anyone to see. Not that that's usually an issue, but we just like to let folks know that. And then for participant options, this will allow you to choose what you want participants to be able to do with the transcript. So you can let them just view it, you can let them view and save it, or you can say no, participants can't view or save the transcript when the call has ended. So that's totally up to you. Once you've filled all of that out, you just click submit, and then you will get an email from the, usually it comes from the sender is just CC for closed caption, and they will send you all the information you need, but the most important thing is they will send you the link to the captioning. So when it's time to get on to the event, you click on the link, and then this window will pop up, and you just put a username in for yourself. You can put your first name, you can put whatever you want, click continue. And then this is what RCC looks like. So this is what will come up either in a separate window or on the other device you're using if you prefer to do it that way. And you can also adjust things like the style of the font size, font color, background color. So whatever preferences you have for that, or your access needs you have in terms of the size of font or whatever, you go under settings and you can adjust all of that. And so this just kind of shows you the two-way captioning. So again, if you're somebody who has a speech challenge and you would prefer to type rather than speak and have the captionist voice for you, in this message to captioner box down here, you type what you'd like to say, and then the captionist will voice for you. Saving transcript is at the bottom of the screen, so you can elect to save it, you can email it, or you can print it. And then here's just a couple handy tips to make your RCC experience as smooth as possible. So provide any prep materials for the captioner, any fancy words you might be using, if there's a PowerPoint that might be helpful for them to see, any acronyms they might need to know about. When you get the RCC confirmation email, you can send any of that to them, just so that they have it and they can be best prepared to provide accurate captioning. It's also really helpful to set ground rules in your meeting by asking speakers to identify themselves before they speak. So for example, let's say my friend Raphael over here is talking, blah, 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 Raphael's talking, it's my turn to talk. So I would say, hi, this is Jules speaking, and then I would say what I need to say. And this makes it so that the captionist can identify who is speaking in the transcript that they are providing. So that way it's easier for the people using the service to distinguish between speakers. And it's also easier if you're using the transcript for later to refer back to, then you'll know who was saying what. Making sure that people don't talk over each other will make sure that your captions are more accurate because the audio won't be as jumbled. Making sure that anybody who's not talking currently has their phone on mute to reduce any background noise. And then on your end, just reducing any background noise. So anything that would mess with the quality of sound coming through for the captionist, you just want to minimize that as much as possible. So a few technical requirements. RCC is optimized for most internet browsers, so Internet Explorer, Chrome, Firefox, Safari. You want to enable cookies in JavaScript. If that sounds like a bunch of mumbo jumbo to you, again, you can always contact me. I'm happy to help you set any of that up. You'll want to have the most updated version of Windows or OS 10 if you're a Mac user. Again, I can help you set any of that up. And a high-speed internet connection is required. So either Ethernet or Wi-Fi. You want to make sure you have good internet connection so that everything works smoothly. So just to kind of go over the benefits of using RCC, it's live captioning done by a real person. So it's usually very, very accurate. It makes it so you're not going to miss anything in these, video meetings that you have. If you're hard of hearing, you'll have full access to all the information. You can use it anywhere there's internet access. You don't have to install any app or purchase any software. It just works in any web browser. And it might seem a little overwhelming, with this presentation, looking at it the first time, but once you go through reserving it and using it for yourself, it's actually very, very easy and it works super well. As I said earlier, I'm a late deaf person, and so I use RCC all the time for all my meetings, and it is extremely helpful. And I just could not be happier that it's a service that's available to anyone in New Hampshire for free. It's just, it's super great. So that is all I have for you. I know that was a lot of information to unload, which is why I wanted to do this as a pre-recorded event rather than a live event, so that if you want to watch it again or refer back to it, you'll be able to do that. But again, I will be available during the networking times from 12 to 1 each day of the conference. So feel free to pop into my booth and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about RCC or about any of the other relay services. Additionally, I'll put my email on the vendor page. So if you have questions that come up later, or if you're not able to come to those networking times, email me anytime. I'm so happy to help get any of this set up for you. Getting people connected to technology that's helpful for them is one of my greatest passions. And as somebody who really benefits from assistive technology, I understand how useful and honestly how life-changing it can be to be able to communicate fully and independently. So I am more than happy to help. Feel free to contact me however you wish. And thank you for watching this presentation. I hope to see you during the networking times over the course of the conference.